This is That Twin Mama podcast. But hey, you don't have to be a twin mom to be here. I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. So whether you are new, soon to be, or seasoned parent, or maybe you just hope to have kids someday, I promise you'll find something to love, learn from, or laugh at in each episode. I'm your host, Lauren Berty. Let's do it. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the That Twin Mama podcast. Your host, Lauren here. And this week we are talking adoption. Specifically transracial adoption, y'all. So I had the pleasure of speaking with Rhianna of the Schoeller family, who her and her husband adopted they're white, and they adopted their daughter, Tiana, who is Black, and have shared their life online, generally just like family vlogs and things of that nature. But their platform doesn't focus on what it was like to adopt transracially or the process as much. And so she turns down a lot of podcasts, y'all. So I was so excited that we were able to connect. She was a fan of That Twin Mama podcast. I was like, someone sent me her stuff and I fell in love with her YouTube page. And I think that there's just a lot of misconceptions of A, just the adoption process, what that could look like. B, what open adoption can look like. And C, how to navigate transracial adoption, or just having an interracial family. I am a Black mom. My husband is white. Our children are mixed. There are some things that I've had to explain to his family about having brown children, right? There are white women who have Black husbands who have mixed babies. And like anything down to like the neighborhood you're choosing to live in, or the daycare system that you're thinking about, or how to ensure that you're being intentions are great, right? You can be intentional about being the best parent to someone that is not your race. And that's great, but intentions actually don't mean anything. It's how it lands, like, right? And I just think that Rhianna and John, the Schoeller family, have navigated that process in a way that's very beautiful. And someone that was a little critical at first, the more I got to know them, the more I learned about their journey. I was like, yo, we got to tell the masses, right? So if you are someone who is thinking about adoption, if you are someone who is thinking of fostering a child, if you are someone that is maybe thinking of transracial adoption, or in an interracial family where you are raising brown babies and you are not yourself brown, this is going to be an episode where you learn a lot. So I hope y'all enjoy. Welcome, Rhianna. I am so excited for you to be on the podcast today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
I know it's going to be so much fun. So I know I explained to our listeners prior to us jumping in right now about what this episode is going to be about, the Schoeller family, your YouTube channel, all the things. But a little bit more about Rhianna is that she lives in West Virginia with her husband, John, and their 5-year-old daughter, Tiana. She has her doctorate degree and works as a nurse anesthetist at the local hospital. And they love to travel, and as a result are moving internationally. Welcome, Rhianna. Wait, so where are you moving to?
Okay, so we just announced this literally yesterday.
Oh my God.
We're only the second person to know about this, but we're moving to, we're going to do summer school in Portugal. Ooh. And then we're going to Bali for kindergarten.
Girl, bye.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we're so excited.
Oh, yeah. Have you been to both? Have you been to Bali and Portugal?
We've not been to either.
I've heard good. So there's some other blogger or somebody talking about where they would want to move internationally. Like they were asking for advice, and Portugal was like a big, like, I guess they're really family friendly, or it's like a really great culture for kids. And it's like a good place to like move to if you're international and you want to have kids there. Or
we've heard like that. And there's a ton of families there we've like interacted with. So we're super excited.
I want to do that one day. In my mind, like, I feel like I would do that. But then I think about like our family is just really close to where we live. And with the girls so young, I'm like, I want to say by them, I can't move them with us because those are they're my childcare. But maybe when they get older, you're like giving me all the feels. Oh my gosh.
They do like short sessions. So you can try it for like 3 or 4 weeks, like kind of like an extended trip.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty cool. I might think about it. What's your favorite place? I know you travel a lot, but I know we're going to get into the episode, but what is like how so far you've been your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
It's really hard to pick one place, but I really liked Laos, or some people say it Lao. Yeah. In Southeast Asia, because it's very like undeveloped and still feels super natural. And in Greece.
Oh, everyone's in Greece right now. Literally, I'm so like my whole feed is Greece. My friends are in, like, I'm like, I need to go there. I want to go for the food. Like,
the food's so good.
The food is like, that's why I travel based on food. Like, I like to go and do things, but the food has to be good too, or I'm going to have a bad time. So, okay, you're giving me all the feels. I'm going to book something after this. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to get into this episode. I know a lot of my listeners have heard of your family and maybe follow along on YouTube, or maybe we have some of your listeners listening today, but can you just tell me a little bit about your journey into adoption and becoming a mother to Tiana?
Yes. So, long story short, John and I went through when we were really young. Like, we met when in 2008. So I was like 18 and he was 21. And so we thought, oh, we'll have kids when we're like 23. Like, that seemed like a good age.
Super old. Yeah.
And then we turned like 23 and we were like, oh, no way.
No.
Like, so then we actually went through a phase where we were like, oh, we're not going to have kids. Like, we're just going to travel around the world and like not have kids. And it's going to be like so fun.
Right.
And then I got into anesthesia school. And so we moved to West Virginia, settled down for a little while. And I was like doing rotations in pediatric anesthesia. And I learned about like the big foster care issue here where they don't have enough foster families for kids. So then I had talked to John and was like, hey, since we're here for 3 years and we never stay put, like, we could do it now. And he was like, oh yeah, totally down. So we did all the paperwork in the classes. And it just all kind of happened. Like, we're really big planners, but this was like kind of fast decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Tiana was actually our first placement.
Really?
Yeah. And it just was like, I think it was just meant to be because we ended up in West Virginia. I ended up like seeing the stuff about foster care. And then we ended up with Tiana first, and she fit like perfectly. And we just fell in love with her immediately.
I love that so much. So how old was Tiana then?
She was 11 months old.
11 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Cause like, I think a lot of people assume that adoption is normally through like, you pay a lot of money and you're on like this wait list forever to find like the perfect baby or things like that. But so you were foster parents and then it led to adoption.
Yes. So
what was that?
Sorry.
Like? No, go on.
So it was a huge thing because COVID happened during it. So she came to us in October 2019, and then right before she turned 1, and then we probably found out by like February that we were going to be able to adopt her, and then COVID happened like immediately after, and so all of the courts shut down. They like deemed adoption non-essential because they're already in a safe home. So it took a whole nother, like, we didn't end up being able to adopt her till she was like about 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So it took a really long time. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but that's normally not how it goes.
Yeah. Normally it's a little faster. Okay.
Yeah. It like normally people do complain that it's slow, but it's a lot faster than how it happened for us. Yeah.
It's all about perspective. That makes a lot of sense. And so if you do go like foster to adoption, I'm imagining it's not like, because adoption, I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research, but I think it's really expensive, right?
Yes. Private adoption. Like $20,000 to $50,000-$60,000.
Wow. And then is it the same for this? Like if you go?
No, it was completely free.
Wow.
So I actually didn't know this going in. Right. So when you foster, everything is like paid for basically by the state you're fostering for. Right. So healthcare, like they even gave like a grocery stipend for her and everything. And while like we didn't specifically need it, like we weren't in a place where we really needed assistance. Like it's you're not allowed to not take it. We learned. So they say like we have to give you this for the child, and that's how it goes. So daycare, food, healthcare, all that. Then when it was time for adoption, it was. We used an attorney they recommended, and the state directly pays that attorney.
Oh, so
we never had any money involved with adoption. And I think it was like $2,500 for all the legal fees, but the state paid the attorney.
That is wild. I don't know. I wonder if people know that. Like, I mean,
I know. That's why I love to talk about it, because everybody says like, oh, I want to adopt, but I can't afford it. And if you adopt through the state, it is a bit harder, like probably emotionally, because there's a lot of what ifs. But it's a more realistic option for most people. Yeah. And then now she'll carry state health insurance until she's 21.
Wow.
So
Wow.
for her, when she goes to college and everything like that, she will still get all the benefits from the state.
That is wild. I feel like like, and there's so many kids that
Yes.
need that, right? And so like that's just like I wish that more people knew about that, or if they haven't, like that's something that could be a different option if you're really looking to adopt one day. Maybe looking to foster, bring first,
Yes.
and seeing
And
what
they
happens
give,
there.
in West Virginia, you get, once you adopt, the parents get
Yeah.
about like $700 a month until a child is 18. So we
Okay.
just save that for her for
Yeah.
college. Yeah,
That's
because we don't need it. So we just,
right.
that will all be hers when she's old enough to like understand and use it.
Oh, that is amazing. So what about like I know you kind of briefly said that you and John like were like thinking about having kids at 23 and then decided not to, and then you were finally in one place like, oh, did you what about is this anything about your upbringing or just like did you research like the need in West Virginia that really made you like passionate about deciding to be foster parents? Because I feel like that is a big decision.
Oh, yes. So
Yeah.
when we had talked about having kids when we were like 18, 19, 20, we talked about adoption like immediately.
Really?
And yes, so I was in foster care when I was a child, when I was
Okay.
like around 5 years old. My sister and I were in foster care for like a little less than a year.
I
And
didn't know that.
we had like kept in touch with our foster family.
Yeah,
We were there with them and another group of siblings, and they actually adopted the other group of siblings.
I
And
see.
we were reunited with my mom. So
I
we grew up with
see.
my mom. And
Got it.
so we kept in touch with them and watched the other siblings grow up too. And so I always knew I wanted to do that ever since
Oh,
that experience.
that's amazing because I think that a lot of people assume that not everyone, but like if you are choosing adoption, that there must have been infertility issues or that you
Yes.
had tried for a child and now you're like, but that's not always the case at all. So you were very adamant about like you did not need to be a birth, like give birth to whoever
Yes.
you mothered. Okay.
Yes. I never had the, like, I
Right.
think because of my experience so
Yeah.
young, I never felt like I think pregnancy is beautiful, but I never felt I needed that experience. And
Yeah.
so I was much more passionate about adoption and foster care than about pregnancy.
Yeah.
So it was like a natural decision for us. And a lot of people assume,
Yeah.
almost everybody assumes infertility immediately.
Yeah.
And so like we get comments like, oh, like I hope you'll be blessed with like a pregnancy one day. And I'm like, oh no, like that's not the
Right.
situation. And
Right.
we like made this choice consciously and never tried for a pregnancy. So infertility wasn't an issue.
That's so interesting and like it's so rude. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I feel like I mean it's different, but like as a twin parent, there's so many people who just come up to me asking if I got IVF. Like just they're
Oh
like, how
yeah.
did you get your kids? Like, how did you conceive them? Just assuming. I'm like, why does it matter to you what I'm doing with my body? All right. If I'm having sex with like, why do you like just stay out? It's just none of your business, you know?
Yeah,
Like
people say wild stuff, and
wild stuff.
I used to get so shocked, but now I've heard it all, and I'm like,
Desensitized. You're like, all right,
yeah.
what do we got going on today? And so, as many of you all may know, if you follow the Schoeller family, their adoption is slightly different because it's like a transracial adoption. You and John are white, and you adopted a Black child, Tiana. And that, I'm assuming, comes with so many different and unique challenges and things that you have had to navigate, are still navigating. I'm curious, when you decided to do foster care, was race in your mind? You're like, if a child needs it, like, were you thinking, I want, like, how did that process start for you? How did you navigate it? And was it something that you always wanted to do, was have like a Black child kind of thing?
So we did not seek any certain race of child.
Okay.
It's actually very crazy. I don't know if every state is like this, but they gave us a form and you like fill it out about kind of like what kind of child you're willing to take.
Huh.
That sounds better than like what kind of child you want, but it's like
Yeah.
what kind of child are you willing to take? So it starts by like sex, like male or female, then it's by race. And
Got it.
we checked for race, we checked any. And you can check like specific.
Oh, you
And
can.
then
Okay. Interesting.
religion was on there, and then like medical issues. So
Got
like
it.
are you equipped to take like anywhere from a child with asthma to a child that needs total care?
Got
And
it.
so we were like somewhere in the middle because we're not equipped to take a child that needs like total care. We both work and stuff.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, we can deal with like medical issues, but not full-time care.
100%.
So for race, we checked any. For medical issues, we made the decision that's best for like our lifestyle. And then for male or female, we checked any, and for age, they limited us to 3 and under because of the size of our apartment at the time.
Got it.
That you have to have a certain amount of space. As you go up in age, you have to have a certain amount of space for the kids.
Okay.
And we lived in like a tiny grad school apartment. So
got it. Okay. That makes total sense. Yeah. Were you like nervous? I mean, I guess like with the actual adoption process or the actual just everything process, it sounds like there was like some sort of form logistically that they provide. Were there any other, like from the logistics of it, like unique challenges or for adopting transracially, or is it just making sure you specified like you would kind of thing?
It was, they didn't have any kind of requirements, which looking back, I think they should. Like, I think you should, if you want to adopt transracially, like you should have to take some extra steps, maybe like take like classes so you can learn more about the culture or race that you're wanting to adopt from, or even if you're not intentionally seeking out to adopt from another culture, if you end up in that situation, then you should have to be educated on it. I think people I didn't realize this, like I'll sound like ignorant looking back because I did not realize how much, like how big of a deal it was before it happened to us. And then I thought like, since then I've realized like so much stuff that I didn't know because I'm white and I didn't have to deal with it like growing up. And so it's like every decision we make now is based around what's best for her. And like where we live, is there going to be enough of a like diversity? We're not going to move to a town with all white people. Everything we do is based off her and has to take that into account. And it's natural now, but in the beginning, I was like, I can't believe I didn't know this before.
Like, and there'd be no reason for you to because of where you sit in life, like unless you have an experience or seek it out. And so as I was listening more to your story, I was just blown away because I can tell like the extent that you guys are doing to make sure you're educated and to make sure that she stays like connected to her culture and heritage. I also think that like there is a stigma, and I'm imagining you might have gotten comments of just like when you see a white family or any family with a Black child, they're like, there's maybe like a white saviorism stereotype, or they wanted to like, I think back to, it's a teacher reference, but like Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer, she like goes into a Black school and like just saves all the Black kids. And so I think sometimes Black people see that, and it's not for me, but Black people see that and they might be triggered and they might want to tell you like blam, 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 blam. So even navigating, I think like some of those like concerns or things from the Black community, has that been challenging, or has that been something that you have dealt with?
Yes, it comes, like a lot of people have genuine concern and they're nice, and it's not so much anymore, but especially in the beginning, because we were already on social media, and then we adopted. So a lot of it was like genuine concern and like concern for Tiana, and we like take that well, and I'll take what people say like into account, especially people that have the experience that I don't have. And also we're not like, it's like we're also surrounded in our friends and family group by other cultures as well. So it's not like we don't see that outside of social media. But people tend on social media to be more unfiltered.
Girl, yes they do. Yes they do. I mean, for real. And like I even love like how you said that you took next like different steps. Like, can you tell me some of the steps that you did? I know we're going to get into the fact that it's an open adoption, but did like in the beginning about just like making sure that Tiana stays like cultural, like, you know, connected to her culture or heritage. I know you mentioned like you're in West Virginia, but where you live in because West Virginia, real white, girl.
Oh yeah.
It's probably real white.
We actually, our social worker said it was like very unusual, the situation we ended up in.
Really?
Because she said that like a huge majority of the foster children in West Virginia are white.
And
because most like
people are
once
white.
you get outside, we're in the capital. And so like we have, I think it's like 12 to 14% African-American population in the capital city where we live. If you go outside here,
there's none.
It's none. It's like 1%, maybe a fraction in the counties. Wow. And so
that is different then. That is unique.
Yeah. So we made sure when we started like house shopping, we looked at we wanted like land and like, we're like, we're going to have animals. We looked at like literally 3 houses and then like looked around the town and we were like, oh no, this is not going to work. So we came like straight back to the city for that reason. Cause like there would be just all white kids in her school. No other like races or ethnicities. So,
I love that you made that decision too. Cause it's important. Like even aware, the awareness there that you have with just that, like what neighborhood you live in. Cause I grew up like the only Black kid and like mostly white. And then even now we live in a place where it's majority white and my kids are brown. And I think about like making sure that we're going to different places and making sure they have kids that are like joining different groups where if it's not in your neighborhood, where else are you going to get just exposure to kids that look like you? You know what I mean? Or people that look like you, because it's important. So I'm just glad you have that awareness.
A lot of people, we toured her daycare. We that was what we were looking for and stuff. But a lot of people, I think myself included, didn't realize like how every decision would be based around that, because we love her and want what's best for her. And I think that with transracial adoption, like that needs to be addressed more before people make a decision. Because I think you have to be willing to like change your lifestyle and get outside of your comfort zone and make your kids more comfortable. 100%. And I think if you're not going to do that, then you need to reconsider your decision.
100%. I worked for an organization where like that was very much about understanding, like if you are privileged or you may not know things, like how to immerse yourself to understand like what an ally looks like or what it looks like to be an advocate for people of color. And like, this is different, like not being a parent too, but they kind of made an analogy of a moving walkway. Like if you're at the airport, there's a moving walkway and it's easy to get on and just be on the moving walkway. That's what everyone does. But like what it would feel like if you're doing the extra work, it will feel uncomfortable. It's like you would have to turn around and walk on the moving walkway the other way, which just feels weird and like you're doing something different. But that's the kind of weird uncomfortability it might take, or the extra it might take. If you just go along with the flow, it's not good enough. You have to like go kind of against it or do the extra work to make sure that you're actually being like very cognizant and conscious of how you are raising your kids. So I just love
that's a good analogy.
I'm wondering, did you have to distance yourself from any family or relatives or friends because your adoption to Tiana?
No, not like we have some distanced family that maybe specifically wasn't because of her, but she made the decision more clear, like for like if you're not going to be involved 1000% and be there and like be reliable, then like we're not having half in, half out. So nothing necessarily happened like specifically because of her, but stuff that had kind of been happening our whole life. Then we're like, oh, this can't happen to her too.
Right. All right. Deuces. I got it. That makes sense. Cause that was something that I like when it was my husband's white and his family's great. But I remember my grandfather, rest in peace. He died when he was like 105. And when we got, which was wild, great genes on that side. But when we talked and I told him like, I'm really like this guy, like we're going to have a kid. And he was like, well, is he nice? Is his family going to be nice to your kids? Like that immediately as a Black man growing up in America, that's where your mind goes to. And like, are they going to accept my brown children? Like, is it going to be a thing? And luckily it hasn't been at all. But I always like wonder when I see interracial families or transracial families, that's something that I think the brown side definitely thinks about. But I'm glad that you guys doesn't seem like that was a concern.
We have a very small family, like very small. My it's like John and I, and then basically like my mom, my brother, and like John's brother. So like there is other family that we're not in close contact with. And then like a little bit about my background, I'm Syrian, and my dad passed away, but he immigrated from Syria. And so that family, a lot of my family's in Lebanon or Syria or like in New York, and we're just not super close. Like once in a while we'll talk. And so it's not like because we don't want to talk. It's just because we grew up in like way different places.
That makes sense. That totally makes total sense. Like, and then I also like just wonder too, because this was like a question that we had got just around like the experience of having multiracial families. What were there like any resources or things that you would like you read or references that were super helpful, like even maybe books you read to Tiana or things like that you would like recommend for people who might be in this situation?
Yeah, I read so children's books. We have I'd have to like look specifically to give you the author and the books, but we started reading books about adoption when she was a baby.
Smart.
We talked about it like right away, always, so that it would be normal to her. Like we never wanted her to one day be like, oh, my parents are white and I'm adopted, and like it'd be like a shock. So we always like talked about adoption, like have pictures of her birth mother and stuff like that around. And then we read, like we like LeBron James books, like I Promise and stuff. Those books are super
I need to
sweet.
get those. I know. I've heard good things. I need to get that. Yeah.
And my husband like loves like LeBron James is like his favorite. So then we like I Am Enough is a really good book. I Love My Hair is a really good one we've been reading since she was a baby, and she loves that book and she'll still read it like all the time.
Girl, let's talk about hair real quick, because I like part of the reason why I fell in love with your family. I was like, yo, because okay, this is what I'll say. I don't think that in any race, no matter who you are, I don't think that you necessarily understand how to prepare to do your daughter's hair that's a different texture than yours, right? Mm-hmm. Like my daughters have different textures than me. So it's like, and they have different textures than each other. And so I still am trying to learn like what products work good on them. Even though I'm a Black woman, like I don't know how to do their hair that well. Yeah, I'm still learning. But girl, when I tell you, Rhianna, you had to have some, I don't know who you went to, or like if you came back from another life as a Black hair designer, because the way you do Tiana's hair was blown away. And that I think is another thing that when we see white families sometimes with Black kids, hair is a big thing. Like every Black person is going to look at that kid's hair. It's just what we do. Anyways, I just want to compliment you on that. But also, how did you learn to do her hair that well? Was it something that was very important for you to make sure you did well?
Yes. Thank you. And I love doing her hair. And I know what you mean. We have since she was 11 months old, we've had people like coming up to us, like making sure her hair is taken care of, which was actually very like helpful in the beginning, especially older women would come up, like our neighbors and stuff. Yeah. And so that was like helpful. And it also just like reinstilled in me how important that was, and that was going to be for her whole life. Yeah. So our neighbor, Miss Virginia, when she was little, was like always looking at her hair and like telling us what to use. So, but when I was growing up, I learned how to like cornrow and braid and everything when I was growing up with like my friends that I grew up around, and they would braid my hair and I would braid their hair. And my like best friend in middle school, Ashley Carter, shout out. She taught me how to braid and cornrow so that I could like help her do the back of her hair. I remember being at her house and like doing the and she'd be like, okay, she would do to here, and then she'd be like, okay, I need you to do the back now. Like when her mom worked nights and stuff. So when her mom was at work. So I already knew how to do it. So I don't want to be like, I just magically learned. Right.
I'm like, how'd you learn? Because teach me. But okay.
And so I hadn't done it in years. And then when her hair got long enough, I was like, I can't imagine I forgot how to do this. So I did know how. The products and everything was a definitely another learning curve, because I never had to like pick out hair products and stuff. Right. So I just tried like 100 different things and then found what works for her. And then now I like will search anywhere to find that one thing. Girl. Wow. Imagine. That's how also YouTube, like and Instagram, like Kels Gorgeous and Egypt Safari, and those pages where they're always showing the hair. Little Raspberry, she has like a hair line, and so much is always watching their ideas for styles and like using them as inspiration.
I need to do that so badly. Like I just think I underestimated like my skill set, or overestimated my skill set with being able to do hair. And like I think
and you have to do two heads, so it's harder.
Exactly. And I'm like, y'all are just, that's the one thing I wanted girls. I think my oldest is a boy, and I was like, I do want girls at some point, but then I would think about the hair part, because this hair is so important to all girls, but especially women of color. So girl, that was a question we got a lot. I'm like, I don't know if she knows how to do hair that well. I love it.
I can't wait till she's a little older, because there's so many styles I want to do. And then like I realized I can't do them because she won't sit that long. And I'm slow. I'm like really slow. Yeah. So like I tried a really complicated style on her once. I got it done, but I was like, oh, I can't do that again until she's older. She's never gonna want to sit here again. She was like, stop, I'm done, like 4 hours later. Right. So we have to keep it simple for now.
Right. We got to keep it simple, but it looks amazing. Okay. So I want to get into another topic that our listeners had a lot of questions around, and it's something that upon researching you, just think that has been a beautiful like how you've been able to navigate open adoption has been just amazing and inspirational and just with so much love. So as much as that we can take from you, from your experience, from what you can teach, I would just like to get a little bit more about I guess the first question is why did you decide to make it an open adoption? And I guess B, like, how has that experience now been for you? And what was the process like? Because I know it wasn't immediate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I always wanted to have an open adoption if it was safe. I felt like part of the reason was because I was in foster care and then I was reunited with my birth mother and like she, like, I grew up with her and I'm so glad. So if I hadn't, like, if for some reason I hadn't been, like, I can't imagine like somebody being like, no, you can't, like, you can't know about that till you're older. Another reason when after we started fostering, I followed some Instagram transracial adoptees that are adults now and post to help like adoptive parents see, like, from the child's perspective.
I love that. That's huge. That's huge.
Almost all of them, like, none of them say like I regret having my birth parents involved, and the ones that didn't say that, like, that was hard for them. So, and then the last thing was when the child's in foster care, like, you have to follow the state's rules.
Right.
And so for us, like, we weren't allowed to have contact with Shantasia until when the adoption was final. The judge then made it up to us. And so like, we were like, how do we, like, get permission for this? And so, like, when we filled out our forms, we had to have that written on there on the adoption paperwork that it was like up to us, not the state anymore, basically. And so
I love that.
It was very natural for us. It worked out very naturally. Like, she's amazing. That like, Tiana's birth family has been nothing but, like, loving and welcoming to us, which was very I was very thankful for, because it was nerve-wracking. Like, I didn't know if they hated us or liked us. When we weren't allowed to talk to them at first. Right. And they've just been great. And she's great. And she's, like, very like, when you see videos and pictures of, like, her and Tiana together, it's just like a tiny clip of, like, the amount of time they might see each other, but you can tell, like, they have a bond even though they don't see each other all the time. And she's just a great person. So
oh, I love that so much. And I love that you're naming that you did, like, research understanding from, like, the adoptees' perspective and how that may affect them. Because I do think, especially, I think in adoption, and I've friends that have been adopted, that understanding, like, where they came from it's a big deal. Like, even if it wasn't transracial, it's just having that identity marker, just even knowing is just something that's very helpful. Even if it's just like their birth time. And I do astrology a lot, and my girlfriend just found her original birth certificate. So I couldn't read her chart fully because she only knew the day that she was born, but she didn't know the time and the place. And when she got that, she just called me crying, like, you can read my chart. I know, like, more of my sign. So just even that, something so small, right? So I really commend you for ensuring that that relationship was fostered. And I want to know a little bit more about, like, how did you navigate that with Tiana? Because at this point, she's calling you your mom. You are mom. So how did you navigate, like, okay, we're going to meet your birth mom? I'm just curious how that went.
So we, before I said we were always, like, talked about everything super openly, even before we thought she could understand. So she always knew, kids, like, get obsessed with the baby in the tummy thing.
Yeah. They get obsessed with babies, period. Especially
girls. She's, like, still obsessed with it. So she would be like, we would say in the books, there's always, like, a tummy mommy or birth family. So when she got, like, age 2 or 3 or something, she started saying, like, when I was in your belly. And so then I was like, oh no, you weren't in my belly. Remember, like, I became your mommy when you were a baby, but you had another mommy. You have another mommy, a tummy mommy. So that's how we did it. And so then I said, you were in her belly, and then she had you, and now I'm your mommy. And so, it's like something happened recently that made me, like, realize how big of a deal this is. Really? She has a girl in her class that sits next to her in preschool. She has 2 moms. Okay. And so Tiana was like, oh, like, the girl's name is so lucky. She has 2 mommies. And we were like, well, you have two mommies too, because you have me and your tummy mommy, and you have a daddy. Like, how lucky are you? And so that's how he did it. She had a lot of questions about like her birth. Like, well, I don't know if your daughters do this yet, but like, how was I born? When was I born? Did I cry? Like all that stuff.
Okay. They're not there yet. They're just obsessed with being in the tummy. Yeah. But okay, go on.
So she will, like when she's wondering about that, we had Shantasia explain to her the whole day and the story and everything.
Amazing.
So she was like, oh, I felt you kicking, and then this happened, and then I went to the hospital, and then like she tells her all about it. So
I love that. So this is like, I just feel like you are such, I'm not exaggerating, I think at all, but it takes a really strong, selfless person, I think, to be doing this and navigating the way you are. All right, y'all, that was part 1 with my conversation with Rhianna Schoeller of the Schoeller Family. Join us next week where we get to all things open adoption and also dealing with racism and comments that they have gotten while being public figures in this space. So definitely we'll want to tune in next week, but thanks for listening, y'all. Peace.